In this video, we're talking about weight loss without effort, without dieting, without restriction, without self-control. I'm just kidding. Losing weight is hardly possible without all these things. But the problem is that we often confuse effort and self-abuse. And in the previous video, I explained how it happens and what is the problem of the promise. You can lose weight without effort, dieting, and restrictions. In this video, we will talk about the root cause of why, instead of putting effort into our weight loss or weight maintenance, we apply self-abuse. Why we cannot self-regulate? What's wrong with us? Spoiler, there is nothing wrong with you. We were not taught to self-regulate. In this video, I will give examples how messages from childhood could influence our relationships with ourselves and our ability to self-regulate. And I will also share with you a checklist, what you need to ask yourself before putting any effort into weight loss. My name is Olga Onoschenko. I'm a psychotherapist, nutritionist, and I've got a PhD from the University of Sheffield Management School, and this channel is about psychological aspects of weight loss, relationships with ourselves, our bodies, food, and other people. And I highly recommend you to subscribe because this is where I share very useful information that will help you lose weight with self-compassion, without shame and self-abuse. This knowledge is based on scientific evidence and my 10 years of experience of working with people, helping them to lose weight. And let's go. In the previous video, I explained why it can be a trap when you are offered weight loss without restrictions, when you are offered health without limiting your food or exercise. And I explained that one of the problems is that we confuse effort, restriction, and self-abuse and self-punishment. And these are two separate things. And on the one side, we have I want and I will eat everything and anything I see. And on other side, I will punish myself with dieting for not being good enough, for not being lean enough. We are looking for middle ground, and modern psychology already knows where this middle ground is. So I'm going to share it with you. But before, let's find out why so many of us cannot self-regulate, why so many of us self-soothe with food, why food is our coping mechanism, and why we turn to self-punishment and self-abuse by default. Very often, the reasons can be found in our childhood. We were not taught to self-regulate and to treat ourselves with compassion. And compassion doesn't mean self-indulgence or lack of discipline, no. Self-compassion means lack of self-abuse, lack of toxic self-criticism, lack of self-attack. This is what self-compassion is. And sometimes we need to make uncomfortable decisions, make hard choices, apply discipline to stay self-compassionate. Because self-compassion is choosing what will be the best for you in the moment. And sometimes the best for you in the moment is to tolerate hunger, is to go to the gym even though you are quite tired. But self-compassion doesn't mean going to the gym when your leg is broken. And self-compassion doesn't mean saying no to food when you're starving. So many of us grew up without guidance of how to manage emotions, urges, or stress. How to deal with ourselves when we struggle, when we make mistakes, when we fail, when we face challenges. Instead of learning emotional regulation, we learned to suppress, to perform, and to please other people. Let's look at what we often got instead of the support that we needed. First, thread instead of emotional validation. Stop crying, or I will give you something to cry about. And versus, you look upset. Do you want to tell me what's going on? Instead of learning to name and soothe our emotions, we learned to fear them. We learned to punish us for them. Crying was seen as defiance, not as distress. Second, criticism instead of encouragement. You got B+, why not A? Versus, nice work, B+ is amazing. What do you think helped? What could make it even better? Let's explore. Achievement becomes a moving target in this case. Success wasn't celebrated. And we also learned to tie our worth to performance. And as I explained, when we tie our worth to performance or thinness, this becomes an existential threat. Not performing, not achieving, not losing weight. And existential threat puts a lot of pressure on us. Third, control instead of body awareness. Finish your food. You're going to eat all that. There are starving kids in Africa. Do not waste the food. Versus, how does your body feel? Are you still hungry or starting to feel full? We were taught to override hunger and fullness cues. Food became about rules, guilt or praise, not self-trust. 4. Fear instead of explanation. If you fail, you'll end up flipping burgers. Keep acting up and you'll get kicked out. Versus, let's figure out what's making school hard for you. Instead of learning about natural consequences, we were scared into obedience. Fear does work short term. I also grew up in fear. Fear of missing a training session. I used to do rhythmic gymnastics, and if we miss a training session, we have to call our coach and explain why we're missing it. And that was super scary. But if you don't do it, next time you come to a session, the coach will really put you down about not warning that you're not going to make it to previous session. That was very scary. That's why I attended and hated gymnastics. And at school as well, we were scared of getting low marks. And while I was not punished for low marks, my classmates were punished for bad marks, for bad results, and they were super scared. But once we are adults and, for example, we do not have a boss to control us, if we want to be self-employed, and if some task is optional and there is no deadline and there are no clients waiting, it's really hard to organize ourselves because we used to be pressured. And it's not about resilience. Action out of fear and trying hard out of fear does not teach us resilience. 5. Shame instead of motivation. You are just lazy versus looks like you're stuck. What would make starting easier? We learned that struggling meant that something is wrong with us. We are incapable, not our environment or our capacity, physical or mental. So we would push harder and then would shut down completely. Insults instead of problem solving. You're hopeless. What's wrong with you? Versus mistakes happen. Let's look at what got in the way. Instead of being taught of how to learn from failure, how to repair, we internalize the idea that we are the failure. Isn't it what happens with dieting efforts? Instead of trying to analyze, why am I overeating? Maybe I'm overworking, maybe food is my coping mechanism, maybe I live in constant stress, maybe my relationships are unfulfilling, or my career is not going the right way. We just feel like we're lacking self-control and discipline, and therefore we are inherently bad and undeserving. 7. Guilt instead of support. After everything I've done for you versus sounds like you're having a tough time. What can I do for you? We learned that needing support makes us burden. So we tried to be good by not needing anything at all. What does it have to do with food? Everything. Because self-regulation and self-trust are the foundation of healthy eating and healthy change. If we never learned to tune into our emotions, respect our bodies, forgive ourselves when we are trying so hard but still are making mistakes, we'll keep turning to food to manage what we were never taught to feel. So now, as we are programmed for self-violence rather than healthy effort, How can we cure that? We need to be very aware, very conscious, and really watch our thoughts. Before going on a diet, before putting in effort into weight loss endeavors, let's ask ourselves the following questions. Here is a small checklist. First of all, check your current state. Do I have energy and resources for this right now? Am I stressed, sleep deprived, or emotionally exhausted? Is my nervous system normally calm, or am I often in fight or flight? Chronically in fight or flight. This very often happens to my clients who work at stressful jobs. Am I still recovering from restriction when food feels too important, too magical? Or do I have enough energy, curiosity, capacity to try something new? In one of the next videos, we're going to discuss how to find healthy motivation to actually control your food intake. Then check your motives. Motives are very important. Why am I doing it? Why do I want to lose weight? Am I doing this for me or because of external pressure? The pressure of diet culture or maybe my community? Will I feel unworthy? Do I fear rejection? For example, I will feel unwanted if I gain weight and I would feel unattractive for my partner, for example. In other words, is it my own choice or am I reacting to external pressure? Very often people are trying to lose weight because GP bullied them into it. Then it's not their choice, they're doing it out of shame. Check your boundaries and flexibility. Can I stop if it starts hurting me? Because very often in dieting we push it too hard, too far. Would I be able to see that on this restrictive diet I'm not functioning properly? I need to do something about it and not finish my meal plan no matter what. Am I willing to adjust the plan if life changes? For example, I'm going on a holiday. Do I have strategies to adjust the plan and not to ruin my previous effort? Or am I going to restrict as much on holiday and go to Italy and not have a pasta? Actually, I've once went to Italy and had 0 pizza or pasta. That was one of my eating disorder stages. I felt fine. I had a lot of fish and vegetables and eggs for breakfast. The only problem that I would regularly fall off the wagon and binge. I say it's the only problem, but it's a huge problem. If it happens to you, you need to do something about it. You need to act because this influences your quality of life. And do I have backup plan for tough days? For example, I didn't have enough sleep or I have a harsh few weeks at work. What then? Will I be able to still prepare my meal plan, do food prep, stick to low-calorie diet? Probably not. It's like forcing yourself to run a marathon with a broken leg. And finally, my attitude towards mistakes. Can I see slip-ups as a part of process, natural part of process and not catastrophes? Can I get back on track without self-punishment? Do I understand that the progress is not always flat? For example, you decided to go to the gym regularly and then hope you have to skip a couple of weeks because of deadlines at work. And then you struggle to come back to the gym because you feel like I've lost it, I failed it, I didn't make it regular, but it's fine. You need to look at the progress in the scale of a year. I lost weight in May. In June, I couldn't lose weight. I had too many barbecues, but in July, I lost weight again and then had a couple of tough weeks and regained a little bit, but then got back on track. And this is all the progress. And if a net result is good, that's good enough. It's not about, that's it. From Monday, from 1st of January, I'm a different person, never again. No. And if you answer no to many of the questions, first, you need to work with a psychotherapist or you need to work with a psychotherapist parallel to your efforts. But again, see if you are ready to put in an effort. A lot of people with stressful jobs, and they're stressful not for a year, but for 2 years, for 3 years. I see people burning out because they're so fixated on success, on sticking to the job, or they cannot manage their stress. Maybe they cannot protect their boundaries and take on too much. Maybe they cannot be productive because they're stressed and tired and procrastinate, but they procrastinate because they're burnt out. This is a really complex question. This is a really popular problem. So if you're one of them, you're not alone, but you need help to untangle this, to solve this problem. Because I can see very, very rigid thinking in such people, and they don't see a lot of opportunities of how they can improve quality of life and create more space to actually put in effort into their health. And very often, once that is solved, stress decreases, the body relaxes, and they sleep better, they lose weight easier, they have more energy, they recover better from exercise, their hormones function better. Because chronic stress is damaging. This is all for today. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments under this video. Check out links under this video, and you can find an application for psychotherapy or weight loss support, and a link to my Instagram account where I show how I put in effort without self-abuse. How I train, how I eat, how I recover. For example, I love eating chocolate in bed. See you soon. More videos on this topic are coming.